Listed here are the LGBT actors who appeared in classic Hollywood films. He had a hidden relationship. He was born Robert Ozell Mosley on January 19, 1922 in Kern County, California. Guy Madison was named after his brother. Having been brought up during the Great Depression, Madison originates from a family of modest means. His early upbringing was rooted in the customs and traditions of a small town, and he first had no interest in pursuing a career in acting whatsoever. Madison volunteered in the United States Navy during World War II, and served honorably as a Navy radio operator in the Pacific. After graduating from Bakersfield College, he studied animal husbandry with the intention of following a career in agriculture. However, this plan was quickly interrupted by the outbreak of World War II. A significant portion of his personality was formed by his time spent serving in the military. He was instilled with a sense of discipline, patriotism and humility, all of which viewers would come to connect with many of the characters he would later play. It was in 1944, while Madison was on shore leave in Hollywood, that her life took a turn that would forever change her history. Henry Wilson, a talent agent, brought him to his attention because he was able to notice his stunning appearance and believed that he had the potential to become a movie star. In the same year, Madison made his debut on the big screen with a modest uncredited role in the love drama, Since You Went Away, which was produced by David O. Selznick. In this role, Madison played a soldier who was neatly dressed, a casting that struck a chord with the American public during the wartime periods. Madison's debut drew an amazing response from fans, and Hollywood grabbed notice of him almost immediately, despite the fact that he had very little experience in the acting world. Selznick gave him a contract, and he was quickly prepared for a career in the entertainment industry. Madison made a number of appearances in films that played on his all-American image throughout the latter half of the 1940s. These films included Till the End of Time, which was released in 1946 and starred Madison with Robert Mitchum, and Honeymoon, which was released in 1947. Madison's natural charisma and real performances gradually won over viewers, despite the fact that critics first gave him mixed reviews due to the fact that he had a limited acting history. His most notable achievement was his leading role as the main character in the popular television and radio series, The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, which ran from 1951 to 1958. The series was broadcast on both television and radio. Madison's status as a prominent figure in popular culture was cemented by the television show, which was a Western that was based on the real-life frontier marshal. Bringing Wild Bill Hickok to life with a combination of stoic heroism and approachable friendliness, Madison brought the character to life while dressed in cowboy clothing and accompanied by his sidekick Jingles, who was portrayed by Andy Devine. The series was one of the earliest shows to be concurrently broadcast on both radio and television, and it is estimated that it attracted millions of spectators simultaneously. His portrayal led to the golden period of Westerns in American media, which was a time when children admired him and adults revered him. His likeness was used on a variety of products, including comic books, cereal boxes and lunch boxes. He was also a frequent guest at rodeos and other public events, where he always greeted his followers with a humble and pleasant demeanor. Madison continued to act in feature films throughout the 1950s and 1960s, despite the fact that he was successful because of his work on television. There were a number of westerns and action-adventure films in which he appeared, one of which was The Charge at Feather River, which was released in 1953, and became famous for its pioneering use of three-dimensional sound effects. Madison moved a significant portion of his career overseas, particularly to Italy, where he starred in a number of spaghetti westerns and war films throughout the 1960s. This was in response to the fact that the popularity of the Western genre was beginning to decline. Because of these European works, his career continued to thrive. As a result, he became a well-known figure among audiences all over the world. Although the budgets for these films were sometimes lesser, Madison never failed to tackle his roles with the same level of professionalism and sincerity. Madison's transition away from the public eye occurred gradually over the course of several years. Despite the fact that he had retired from performing in the late 1970s, he continued to be a revered character at Western conventions and classic film festivals, a place where fans of all ages would congregate to honor the heritage of the Wild Bill Hickok and the golden era of Westerns. In recognition of Madison's long influence on the Western film and television genre, the Golden Boot Award was bestowed to him in 1996. This award was given in recognition of his accomplishments to the entertainment industry. It was in 1949, when Guy Madison tied the knot with actress Gail Russell, when he was at the pinnacle of his Hollywood popularity. She was a fellow star who had grabbed audiences with her eerie beauty and emotionally intense performances in films such as The Uninvited, which was released in 1944, and Angel and the Bad Man, which was first released in 1947. The public regarded their marriage as a glamorous match because both of them were young, attractive, and swiftly advancing in their separate jobs. This contributed to the public's perception of their partnership. On the other hand, their relationship was riddled with emotional difficulties behind the scenes. This is Russell, a woman who was extremely sensitive and introverted. She struggled with great social anxiety and drinking, a condition that was made worse by the strains of living a life in Hollywood. In spite of the fact that Madison first showed his support, he eventually discovered that he was unable to deal with the emotional toll and instability that his wife's inner turmoil brought about. The emotional and physical distance between the pair grew. Madison's own acting career began to gain steam, including his starring role in The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok. This caused the couple to become more emotionally and physically distant from one another. In the end, they divorced in October of 1954, after having been married for 4 years. Their separation occurred in 1953, after 3 years of marriage. It was claimed that Madison continued to show sympathy toward Russell and her personal issues, despite the fact that their relationship had come to an unfortunate end. However, their lives would go in quite different directions after that. Almost immediately after finalizing his divorce from Russell, Madison went on to remarry, which was a quite dramatic turn of events. Late in the month of October in 1954, he tied the knot with the actress Sheila Connolly in a civil ceremony that took place in Juarez, Mexico. At the time, Juarez was a popular destination for having rapid marriages and divorces. Madison's passion for the outdoors and for family life was something that Connolly, who was recognized for her appearances in dramas, westerns and films from the 1950s, shared. And at first glance their relationship appeared to be one of love and stability. The couple eventually went on to have 3 daughters, Bridget, Erin and Dolly. They did this after settling into a domestic life together. According to reports, Madison, who had been grown up in a large family, took a great deal of satisfaction in being a father, and made an effort to strike a balance between his profession in Hollywood and the time he spent with his children. Their marriage, however, began to suffer as a result of the stresses that come with working in the entertainment industry, as well as Madison's frequent travel for film and television work, which took place in both the United States and Europe. The couple had already divorced by the time November 1960 rolled around, and in April 1963, the divorce was finally completed. Madison continued to keep a cordial relationship with Connolly, and was actively involved in the lives of their girls, despite the fact that their marriage had ended. In the years that followed, Madison began a romantic relationship with the actress Gia Scala, who was a stunning beauty of Italian and Irish heritage. Scala had made her name in films such as The Guns of Navarone, which was released in 1961. Some of their friends regarded their relationship as strong and emotionally complicated, despite the fact that it was never institutionalized by marriage. The hardships that Scala, who was recognized for her charm and vulnerability, had likewise experienced were comparable to those that Madison's first wife had experienced. Problems with alcohol and depression are included. Although this was the case, she and Madison continued to have a strong relationship, According to sources of biographical information, the significance of their relationship was such that prior to Madison's untimely and inexplicable death in 1972, Scala designated Madison as the beneficiary of her share of the Screen Actors Pension Fund. A great number of people interpreted this action as a manifestation of profound affection and trust, and it served to highlight the enduring connection that they shared, despite the fact that their relationship was not a conventional one. Guy Madison had a son named Robert Madison, who would go on to become an actor like his father. In addition to the girls he had from his marriage to Sheila Connolly, Guy Madison also had a son named Robert Madison. Born from a different connection later in Madison's life, Robert was raised in Italy, where Madison spent a significant amount of time during the 1960s and 1970s performing in European films. Robert was born while Madison was married to another woman, especially within the genre of spaghetti westerns, for example. While in Italy, Robert established a good acting career for himself by participating in a variety of productions, including those for television and film. The relationship between a father and his son was a significant one, despite the geographic and generational barrier that existed between them. According to reports, Guy Madison provided Robert with direction and assistance as he negotiated the hurdles that come with a job in the entertainment industry. He did this by passing on not only his professional knowledge, but also a heritage of resiliency and flexibility that had defined his own career. The audience has known Guy Madison for decades as the square-jawed, soft-spoken star of westerns and war pictures. He is most famous for his portrayal of Wild Bill Hickok in the long-running television series, The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok. It was during this time that Madison gained widespread recognition as a result of his sculpted good looks, modest manner, and boy-next-door charm. He became a popular and beloved figure during the 1940s and 1950s. Having a large number of devoted female followers. But behind the rough-and-tumble Hollywood facade and the produced public image, Madison lived a far more complicated and intimate reality. This reality was influenced by the rigorous moral norms of the studio system, and the ever-present possibility of discovery, in a period that was extremely intolerant of homosexuality. Madison reveals the hidden chapters of his life in a memoir that was published after his death. The memoir is compiled from interviews and personal letters, and it includes deeply personal and heartfelt accounts of the romantic relationships he shared with several other actors, many of whom were also closeted and bound by the same harsh constraints. As men who loved and lived in secret, fearing professional ruin at a time when a hint of homosexuality might end a career, names and faces from Hollywood's golden age are uncovered for the first time. This is not a scandal, but rather they are unmasked with quiet dignity. The recollections of Madison offer a picture of resiliency, feelings of desire, and the connection between people. Ramon Navarro, the silent film idol, who was most remembered for his part in Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, 1925, is the subject of his frank recounting of his friendship with Ramon Navarro. In her writing, Madison describes Ramon as being more compassionate, spiritual, and insightful than anybody else gave him credit for. There would be times when we would get together in the secluded areas of West Hollywood, or we would sneak away to Palm Springs under the guise of rest and leisure. The peace that we discovered there was the kind of peace that neither one of us could claim in our lives that were made public. Tyrone Power, the swashbuckling matinee star, whose bisexuality was rumored to exist but never confirmed during his lifetime, is another subject that he discusses with a warm and affectionate tone. Described by Madison as charismatic and conflicted, Power was a man who carried the load of conflicting expectations, studio contracts, and personal truths. Madison portrays Power as this man. During the last days of his fame, when the cameras stopped rolling and the masks were removed, we developed a connection with one another. During those brief intervals of silence, we were nothing more than two guys attempting to comprehend the concept of love in a world that refused to acknowledge its existence. Another identity that Madison divulges is that of Anthony Perkins, the crazy celebrity, whose gay orientation was mostly kept a secret among those who were inside the entertainment industry. Madison makes the observation that their courtship was short-lived, intense however. Madison remembers that Tony was a young man who was consumed by a haunting, and that he was always a bit uncertain about how much he could divulge, even to someone who knew the stakes. For a few months we were entangled in both excitement and anxiety as we shared a passionate relationship. It appeared as though he was constantly glancing behind him, and there was a good reason for this. Perhaps most painfully, Madison describes his relationship with Rock Hudson, whose death from AIDS in 1985 represented a seismic shift in the public discourse regarding homosexuality in Hollywood. Madison goes on to describe his kinship with Rock Hudson. Madison characterizes their connection as one that is comprised of equal parts love and sadness. Rock had the soul of a guy who had to splinter himself into bits in order to survive, and he had the grin of a golden boy. Our time together was snatched, and it consisted of nothing more than private dinners in his canyon retreat, or weekends spent in Big Bear. It is possible for even stolen moments to be timeless. Madison takes care to avoid sensationalizing his writings across his whole body of work. His manner is thoughtful, contemplative, and brimming with compassion that is the result of having experienced something similar. These were not merely names or sexual encounters, rather they were significant ties in a world that frequently denied the basic possibility of such connections. He goes on to clarify that we did not date in the manner that people currently think of dating. Even though it was covert, secretive, and careful, it was genuine. We have a good time. During the time that we were holding one another, we watched the sunrise and chatted about the lives that we hoped we might have had under different circumstances. Additionally, in addition to being a revelatory work, the memoir provides light on the emotional toll that secrecy and anxiety placed on the emotional well-being of gay men in Hollywood around the middle of the 20th century. Madison explains the concern that comes with studio contracts that have morality provisions, as well as the potential for tabloid exposure that is always present, as well as the psychological burden that comes with continuing to conceal one's identity. He adds that there were instances when he believed he would lose his mind as a result of pretending. Each and every interview, as well as each and every photo session with a female co-star, was an act. It was never on TV that the true performance occurred, rather it was in everyday life. Nevertheless, Madison does not spend all of her time in the shadows. As well as this, he rejoices in the unobtrusive victories and the secret love letters. The stealthy looks across sound stages, the warmth of a hand gripped under a restaurant table, and the comfort the hand provides. He argues that despite the fact that the world was trying to deny us love, we were able to find it regardless. We dug out happiness wherever we could. Guy Madison's resolve to share his truth, even after his death, sheds new light on the tales of a great number of actors, whose names continue to be buried in coded bios and sanitized studio histories. Not only does his memoir reclaim his personal truth, but it also makes a contribution to the larger endeavor to commemorate the lives of LGBTQ+ individuals who were shaped by Hollywood's golden age, and who were shaped by it. Following his retirement from a lengthy and fruitful career in cinema and television, Guy Madison made the decision to make his home in the tranquil and gorgeous Morongo Valley, which is situated in the high desert region of Southern California during his retirement. Madison, who had spent decades in the spotlight, found the Morongo Valley, which is known for its beautiful beauty, panoramic mountain vistas, and tranquil ambiance, to be the ideal place to retreat. The enormous ranch-style home that he constructed there was a reflection of his love of the outdoors, as well as his wish for peace and tranquility in his senior years. In addition to being his place of abode, the property also served as a place for him to take pleasure in the natural environment and host intimate gatherings with his close friends, as well as participate in leisure hobbies such as gardening and horseback riding, which had long been activities that the actor had been interested in, particularly considering his history of acting in westerns and action-adventure roles. The health of Madison, on the other hand, started to deteriorate as time went on. Emphysema, a chronic and progressive lung illness that is frequently connected with smoking, severely reduced his movement and respiratory ability in his latter years. He continued to suffer from this condition till the end of his life. Despite the sickness, it was said that he continued to be as active as his condition permitted.
He had visits from friends, and continued to maintain contact with a large number of old colleagues and admirers who fondly remembered him for his work in vintage television and film. Guy Madison, who was 74 years old at the time of his death, passed away on February 6, 1996. The Desert Hospital Hospice in Palm Springs, California was the location where he passed away, a facility that is well known for delivering end-of-life care that exudes compassion. Fans who had grown up watching him on screen during the golden age of Hollywood westerns, notably in his renowned performance as Wild Bill Hickok, were saddened by his passing since it signified the end of an era. Forest Lawn Cemetery, located in Cathedral City, California, is a tranquil and exquisitely designed cemetery that serves as the final resting place for a number of Hollywood's most renowned individuals. Madison was laid to rest there. Because of his interment there, he was buried alongside other celebrities, which was a testament to the long-lasting impact he had on the entertainment business. The funeral ceremony was a small but meaningful occasion, and it was attended by close friends, members of Madison's family, and former co-workers who had known Madison both personally and professionally. Don Burnett, a close personal friend and fellow actor who had transitioned into a profession as a stockbroker, was one of the individuals who paid tribute to him. Many other people also paid respect to him. During the funeral, Burnett delivered a eulogy in which he reflected on Madison's character, the enduring friendships he had built throughout his life, and the career accomplishments he had achieved. His words praised Madison not only as a public personality and a well-liked actor, but also as a devoted friend and a humble man who had lived his life with honesty, grace, and quiet dignity.